So before we get into our Wildlife Encounters interactive live stream, we just have a word from our sponsors, Leone McDonald and Roberts CPA. I have here with me Paula DePlanche from Leone McDonald. They have offices located throughout New Hampshire, including one right here in Dover. They offer tax planning and preparation, accounting, financial reporting services that include audits, reviews, and compilations, as well as business consulting for individuals, closely held businesses, nonprofits, and employee benefit plans. So they do quite a bit. So they have extensive resources, industry experience, and a commitment to excellence. The CPAs at Leone McDonald Roberts deliver personalized financial, accounting, and tax solutions to clients, helping them focus on their mission and achieve their goals. Their firm is deeply committed to helping others, being a good neighbor, and making a difference. Employees are encouraged to support local organizations by attending fundraising events, serving on boards, and volunteering on committees. Paula is the 2020 Volunteer of the Year, so they definitely help out with it throughout the community. So before we get into the Wildlife Encounters, we'll have a short video from Leone McDonald, and then we'll jump right into the live stream.
Leone McDonald Roberts was founded in 1973 as a sole proprietorship, and since then we've grown to a 7-partner, 40-person firm with 5 offices throughout New Hampshire. I think one of the unique things about our firm is that we have the resources of a regional, larger firm, yet we maintain that small hometown feel where it allows our clients to feel comfortable coming to us for any type of business advice.
We work with a variety of individuals, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations, providing a variety of tax and auditing services. So no matter what industry you're in, we'll have a professional here to help.
So I think that a lot of times people think of accounting firms as being number driven, and that's what their big focus on. What I love about LMR is they are community driven. So when they not just support a client in our accounting and our annual audit, and we have a very big audit that we do. They also support us in many ways by being a great community partner.
At LMR, we care about our people, our employees, our clients, our community. These relationships, they're more than just professional. We consider them friends, family, and neighbors. Our team, we love to volunteer and support deserving organizations to help make a meaningful difference. And we truly value these connections.
We have nothing but great things to say. The firm has become more than just a business that we deal with. It's been a win-win for everybody.
So at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to that, we want to be there for our clients, to be able to service them and help them in any way that we can, and to be that overall trusted business advisor. And at the same time giving back to the community, being part of the community, because we like what we do and we like where we live, and we just want to give back and continue to be there for our clients.
Hey, Paula.
Hey, Margaret, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Good. I see we both have our favorite Apple Harvest Day.
Yeah. My husband always says I can stop traffic with this one. He can see me anywhere. So if I ever take up running, I should wear this running. I'll be nice and safe. So Apple Harvest Day, not our usual format, but we made it work, which is awesome. And thanks to you folks at Leone McDonald and Roberts for supporting us again this year. And as we heard in the video, that's really a philosophy of your company. You like to support the communities in which you work. And here in Dover, we're certainly grateful for that. It's not just Apple Harvest Day. You step up all the time to help the chamber and lots of organizations throughout the city. And we thank you for that. But Paula, you personally, not just the firm, you personally are out there every year for Apple Harvest Day, very often at 4 a.m. So how did you enjoy sleeping in today?
Well, I wouldn't say 4 a.m. It was usually 6 a.m. You got it before it. But I certainly appreciate that little extra time this morning. And I really, appreciate everything, all you and the rest of your team, Melissa, Morgan, and Cam, have done, and Donna have done, a fabulous job at making this all something as special as it can be, without having, that social interaction that we all, certainly miss throughout our lives right now.
Yes, and we do miss it, and that's one reason we wanted to try to make this happen in whatever format we could. And other than a few technical difficulties, this has worked very, very well for us. We've got a lot of folks on the Facebook feed who are commenting, engaged with the vendors. I hope they're enjoying the entertainment. I know I have. There's so much incredible talent here in Seacoast and the Dover area, and it's wonderful to see it. So just a reminder to everyone, those vendor booths are on appleharvestday.com. The site is open all month. This is not just a one day, this is a month-long event. As Morgan has been reminding us, we have the Apple Harvest Day 5K next weekend, and then on the 17th we're going to have an in-person event. It's kind of a drive-in Apple Harvest Day. We'll have some live performances, kid shows in the morning, and then acoustic radio in the afternoon. So you can go to dovernh.org/AHD to make your reservations and get your tickets for those events. So Paula, just going back to Leone McDonald and Roberts, what is it about Apple Harvest Day? Because every year you guys help us out and we truly appreciate it. But what is it about Apple Harvest Day that your firm and you find so special?
Well, for me personally, being a Dover native, it's the day that I feel like I get to connect with so many different people that maybe I haven't seen in a year or more. I've had over the last I've been doing the volunteering probably for 7 or 8 years at least, and I'm always so excited when I get to see people I haven't seen. Either they see me or I see them, and I love to help out the vendors. That was usually my job, was to help the vendors set up in the morning, and it was usually the section down near Harvey's and TD Bank, and there was similar ones each year, and they were always so grateful for the assistance. The chamber had always encouraged us to, help them in whatever ways we can. And, I think that's what made it an even more special event, is that, it's so community driven, and even people that, weren't from Dover and weren't familiar with it, just always complimented, us on, making them feel welcome and supported. And as a firm, I think what we appreciate so much about the chamber, the Dover Chamber, is that it's not just a membership group where we get support for our business. We have community support, we have community entertainment, having family. Most of my family is in the area. We've, between the Kachiko Arts Festival and the Apple Harvest Day, it just adds that much more spirit in how we live, and the genuineness of what it means to live in a community that we care to be in. So.
Yeah, and that came through loud and clear from the video that you presented. You take pride in the communities. Not just over, you've got offices throughout the state, and you want to be part of that community. And that really does come through loud and clear. So you mentioned Harvey's. I have to say, folks, they're a great source for all kinds of Apple-related products. So if you need your fix, we know we can't give it to you live this year with all of our vendors that are usually throughout the town, but there are many locations in town offering fall-related items, lots of great restaurants, the breweries, but certainly our very good friends at Harvey's have quite a selection of Apple-related products. So please pop in and see them as you're out wandering around on Central Ave in Dover and in the area. So next up, we're getting ready for Wildlife Encounters. Now, Paula, they are a mainstay of Apple Harvest Day, and probably one of the most popular parts of Apple Harvest Day. Derek and his crew do a great job. They actually bring the animals to Apple Harvest Day. They have that, I'm sure you've seen it, that giant tortoise that sits, sort of just sort of hangs out all day. And, so do you know what animals Derek is bringing today, or are you going to be surprised?
Well, I know a few of them at least. So I'm excited, and having brought my kids when they were younger, they're all adults now, but
Right.
having brought them here, animals are one of their favorite things. And so, and especially having animals that we don't normally see.
Right. Yeah, he does. He always brings some really unusual ones that you think, ooh, but he's so good with them. And Wildlife Encounters is really an incredible resource here in the state of New Hampshire. We're thrilled to have them at Apple Harvest Day every year, but I can't say enough about the work that Derek and his crew do. So Wildlife Encounters, please check them out. We're going to be with them for the next, I think, 45 minutes to an hour or so while they take us through their presentation. But check them out. They're a really neat organization. So Paula, without further ado, we have Wildlife Encounters brought to you by Leone McDonald and Roberts, PA.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. You were making me blush there. So now I got to orient my camera and everything. Really excited. Oh, it was a little bit windy carrying the animals in. We're in our virtual studio here in Barrington. Good afternoon, everybody. It is good to not see all of you because I can't see any of you. Attendees are normally in the many of thousands that we get a chance to see at Apple Harvest Festival every day or every year. And we're really excited to get a chance to participate in the event, even in this format this year. So for those of us who have not had a chance to meet in person, or maybe this is the first time you're having an opportunity to participate in Apple Harvest experience, even this unique way, I'm excited to get a chance to meet you and share with you a little bit about our organization and what we do for our local communities, for our animal friends, as an educational institution in the area. So my name is Derek, and I started the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center and Farm School, or what most people, including our friends at the accounting firm, at the chamber, and in the local community, just simply refer to as Wildlife Encounters. We started about 17 years ago, and we started working with animals like this fool here, who's opening and joining me, that a lot of you see every single year and probably wondering if he's okay during the pandemic. Everybody, this is Sid, if you haven't met Sid before. And so, you know, we are an organization that has, for the last decade and a half plus, specialized in working with non-releasable or dependent animals. You'll read all this on our website if you go to it. And in fact, a complete list of all of the animals that we work with are on our animal page, as well as pictures of many of them individually, not stock photo pictures, our actual animals. And so what we have done is we've done outreach education. We typically, in a normal year, go to about 1,000 to 1,100 presentations a year, much of those in schools, communities, libraries, many campgrounds during the summer, and resorts, both summer and winter tourist seasons and so on, just providing good, wholesome, educational, valuable family experiences that are a little bit entertaining and educational, and of course benefit a great cause. And so I'm really, really appreciative of the sponsorship of this program here today, and the opportunity to participate with you and introduce you to some of our ambassador animals. Now, we're going to introduce you to a couple of them, share a little bit of kind of the basic information. As she referred to in the introduction, this is normally about a 45 to 60-minute presentation. Some of the animals, yes, were requested, and those requested animals are here today. But actually only 4 animals requested. And for those of you who have followed us for a while, you know that a typical presentation actually features 7 animals. So we picked a couple of extras for you. And in fact, one of our animals is here today going to participate in its very first Wildlife Encounters presentation ever in its life for you, the From Home attendees of the Apple Harvest Festival 2020. Okay, so, we'll get a couple of animals through. I want to share with you a couple of exciting things that are going on with our organization and ways that we are pivoting in the pandemic, trying to make sure that we literally have enough financial means and revenue generation to be able to feed and provide appropriate veterinary care and housing and comfort and enrichment for our very unique special souls that are our responsibility 24/7, 365. The first one of which is Sid. If you haven't met Sid, Sid is very often a part of our educational programs when it comes to biodiversity or the variety of living things that share our beautiful planet with us. He's often a part of endangered species programs, rainforest ecology education programs, and things like that. Most kids will look at him and be like, that is a big white parrot. And parrot is kind of a general term, but it is an accurate term. More specifically, more accurately, he's known as a cockatoo. And even more specifically, he's known as a Moluccan cockatoo. Now listen, our experience here today is not going to be classroom level. And obviously it can't be like birthday level and really interactive. But one of the cool things that we have going on, I think, let me check. Is it going on, Jen? We good?
We're good.
You saw me look off camera because right beside me is kind of like my partner in crime. Let me introduce you to her. If you've never met her before, this is Jen. If you guys have any communications with us through Facebook Messenger, you email in, you drop a dime, and well, actually it doesn't even cost any money anymore. You just give us a call. She's at extension 1, I'm at extension 2. You call the main number, it goes to one of our cell phones. You catch us anywhere, anytime. But Jen is going to be on the chat on Facebook Live. So if you're watching this through the Apple Harvest interface on the actual Apple Harvest website, you're not going to be able to participate in the chat. But if you're actually in your Facebook, I guess, browser or application or whatever, then you should be able to engage the chat. And throughout our time, normally during a presentation, you know, we ask kids to hold their questions till it's question time. But now you can shout out your question to Jen on the chat anytime you want. It might be having to do with something you see, something I say, or anything else. But let's try to keep it topic relevant, if you know what I mean. Okay, so Jen's going to be here. I might ask her to come and go from our presentation a little bit. And Jen actually does a lot of our presentations as well independently. She's a fantastic educator. So Sid the Moluccan cockatoo, what does he help us teach about? Well, he is an ambassador animal. And by that I mean he is a representative, not just of the faces that he himself represents, but the other animals that share his community. Or a lot of kids are familiar with the term habitat. Every living thing has a habitat, and you know, it has a habitat that it is well adapted to. So this animal's natural habitat is a rainforest habitat. About as far away from New Hampshire as you can possibly be and still be on a habitable planet that we call Earth. This animal's natural habitat has only ever been known to be 3 islands in the South Pacific off the coast of Australia. They're known as the Moluccan Islands, or some people pronounce it the Moluccan Islands, and so this is known as a Moluccan cockatoo. Now, there are many species of cockatoos, and if you research cockatoos, you'll see that some of them are pretty good size, but more dark in color, and about half of them are generally lighter in color. But Sid, who I think he's probably looking white here on the screen, he has a little bit of a pinkish hue. And he has some hair lights, as you can see that. Look at those hair highlights. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so the Moluccan cockatoo is sometimes called the salmon-crested cockatoo because these large feathers on a cockatoo's head are known as the crest feathers, and that is often referred to as kind of like a salmon color, like you would if you were at the grocery store and you were at the fish counter and you would see salmon. It normally looks kind of like a reddish orange. So the salmon-crested cockatoo is sadly an endangered species. Okay, they are incredibly intelligent animals, but unfortunately because of habitat loss, mostly because of bad farming practices, these animals are rapidly losing their habitat. In just the last 100 years, those 3 islands that they have good, stable populations in big, diverse habitats have been reduced to 1 island left. And if humans don't change our farming practices from one that is degenerative for Earth and the environment and to one that instead is regenerative, regenerate rather than degenerate, unless we make some changes, and small changes by everybody add up to big changes in the long term. You know, if we don't do that, then some scientists project that the Moluccan cockatoo could become extinct in the wild in the next like 35 or 40 years, which would be horribly sad and devastating. So Sid is an animal. Yes, Sid is an animal. Okay, Sid is a very intelligent animal. Yeah, he'll agree with that one too. Sid is a very loud animal. Do you want to show him how loud you are? Go ahead, show him how loud you are. No, that's how you dance, I think. Is that dancing? Make some sounds, will you? He's feeling very quiet right now. The Moluccan cockatoo is actually one of the loudest birds in the world. If you ever seen us in person, you probably are right now covering your ears, wondering if his sound is actually going to come through over the internet. There we go. He was getting all excited. Ow. Oh my goodness. It's literally like he punched me in the ear with sound. And of course, this loud sound. Okay, we can be done now. Thank you very much. I would have everybody clap for you and give you positive reinforcement. But if they clap, go ahead, clap for Sid. Look, there's like 10,000 people clapping for you right now. They are clapping for you, but he can't hear it. Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. Thank you very much. It's literally like working with a 3-year-old. Unbelievable. So Sid the Moluccan cockatoo really likes positive reinforcement. And just like, you know, if you do a really good job with your schooling, whether you're in school or remote, if you work hard and apply yourself, there are several different levels of reward. First of all, there's the personal satisfaction, right? Like, hey, it wasn't easy, but I kind of like made a choice to do it, even though it wasn't easy. And now I feel awesome for getting it done. Or it could be something like, you know, a compliment, like, hey, your parent, I'm proud of you for doing a good job. Or it could be something like going out for ice cream on a hot fall or summer day, okay? Well, Sid likes reinforcement as well. First of all, he loves it when kids laugh. He is very intelligent. And when I say he loves, I mean, like he loves. He is probably the only animal in our presentation today that actually can feel emotion. Well, except for Jen. Sorry, I didn't mean to be dismissive of Jen.
Wow.
Okay, but he likes snacks too. So we're gonna give him his little candy here. Would you like a little snack, young man? Ew. He eats with his feet. See if we can. Stop moving. We're trying to do the camera thing. Stop it. Now what he's going to do is he's going to demonstrate. That's not your strategy, silly. He just dropped it on the floor. There are many birds that will take something hard and fly up high in the sky and drop it from a far distance in order to crack it open. But young man, you're supposed to use your beak. He can close this beak behind that tiny little tip with about 300 pounds of pressure. That enables him to be very good at cracking nuts and seeds and things like that. And that's one of his roles in the rainforest, is to crack these things open. Oh, I think he's gonna do it. Now everybody's getting such a you're letting me down, buddy. What is this partnership? Sid and I have been working together literally for like 15 years. This is not my first rodeo. He's just being a little, well, honestly, since it's October, I'm gonna be honest with you. He's being hormonal. The adults are like, oh, I know what that means. Yep, it's that time of year for birds, right? You might not know that reference relative to birds, but birds are incredibly intelligent, emotional, and hormonal animals. So Sid's being not his entire self these days, but it was my pleasure to get a chance to share him with you. If you guys have not had a chance to see him before, there's plenty of time. Don't be like, oh, this is the only way. I'd like to meet Sid in person. Please, he's like, I don't know, in his mid-30s. And a lot of you probably know this, but cockatoos and many large members of the parrot family, whether they're the type in South America known as macaws or Amazon parrots or the African gray parrot, for example, or any of those, they can often live to be 50, 70, 80 years old or more. So Sid and I are actually competing to see which one of us will live longer. So run to the bathroom. We'll be right back with a different animal and more super cool stuff in just a few minutes. Thank you. Miraculously, I've done a little bit of an animal change. So the first animal that we saw, Sid the cockatoo, he's off in his car seat, snacking on some happy snacks and knowing that he did a job well done as far as an ambassador animal. Now, ambassador animals are incredibly valuable these days, at least in our opinion. As educators, our goal is to teach people about the natural environment around them, the natural environment that's not around them, places honestly far away that people may never go, because unlike even a couple of generations ago, today's generation, tomorrow's generation, their behaviors, their choices, their activities have a dramatic effect, not just on themselves, their family, and their local community, but on human and animal communities around the globe. And so that's kind of one thing that makes the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center different from some of our really close friends here in the state of New Hampshire, like the Seacoast Science Center down in Rye, the Squam Lake Science Center up in Holderness, the Audubon centers here in New Hampshire, because they mostly focus on native species, whether it's, sea and coastal dwelling habitats, native forests and grasslands or whatever. We do focus on those animals, but we have a broader focus of global ecology. And for those, I keep saying that, it's actually a part of our official name now, the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center and Farm School. Ecology is the study of living things and how they interact with each other and with the non-living part of the world around them, like the soil and the water and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed getting a chance to meet Sid. I'm going to introduce you to another animal before really kind of getting into some of the exciting stuff that we're doing, and then showing you some real exotics, if you will. So our second animal is the one that's having his global debut at the Apple Harvest Day event 2020. Just about a week and a half ago, I drove down to a wildlife rehabilitation facility on Long Island in order to get him. He was, along with many of his siblings and his mom, victims of an unfortunate car accident. And he unfortunately is not able to go back and live in the wild, where wild animals truly belong. We always say animals born wild and free should live wild and free, but sometimes when animals are incapacitated, they become dependent on humans. And so that is the story of this guy right here. This little baby guy, okay, he's only about 4 months old. And we actually just announced on our Facebook page that we decided to name him Teddy. So most of you probably know that this little nocturnal animal, nocturnal being primarily active at night, but Teddy's going to decide to be active for us right now, is called an opossum. Commonly also referred to as a possum, the correct term technically is opossum. Now, possums and opossums are both real things, and they are both animals that are very, very similar. And one of the biggest differences between them is where they live. So there are many, in fact, I believe well over 100 different species of possums that actually live in the part of the world where Sid the cockatoo would naturally exist, that being Southeast Asia, Australia, and so on. A lot of people are probably familiar with a small kind of like flying squirrel little type of an animal that's unfortunately commonly kept as a pet by people sometimes, not as common, thankfully, as it has been in the past these days, but it's called a sugar glider. And a sugar glider is actually a possum species. Opossums are similar in many, many ways. A couple of the physical characteristics that make them similar are these very strong fingers. Possums and opossums have very powerful fingers for climbing, and on their back feet, actually, let me see your back foot, Teddy. Possums and opossums actually have thumbs. Check that out right there. That is an opposable thumb on his back feet. Let's see if we can see that right there. See? So 4 toes and a thumb. Opposable thumb. It's literally like your hand. Opposable thumb. It's pretty cool. It's on their back feet. So possums and opossums are very similar, but opossums live in the Americas, all right? They are New World, what we call marsupials. Marsupials, as we'll talk a little bit about in a little bit, are unique parts of the mammal group. And one of the things that make them unique is a part of their reproductive process. When a female has a little one growing in her tummy, instead of being pregnant, a long time, like for a person about 9 months, and depending on the species, that length varies. But that would be placental mammals, longer periods where the baby's developing inside. With these guys, it's a short period of time. It's literally just a few days or a couple of weeks. And when Teddy was actually born, he was about the size of a dime. He had no fur. He didn't have any functioning eyes. He could barely move or wiggle. And he went into the safety of his mom's pouch. So that's what marsupials are. Little kids that are watching, I don't know if you ever watch kind of like that. There's an old kind of like something that I grew up with. My first marsupial exposure was actually on Winnie the Pooh with Kanga and Roo. If you know that reference at all, it's showing my age, I guess. Okay, but this is a North America's only marsupial. Now here's the thing about why Teddy can't go back in the wild, because the car accident, as the car went by and many of his siblings and his mom actually got hit, it appears that the car just ran over his tail. Opossums normally have a long, what's called a prehensile tail, and we'll actually see a functioning one of those on a different animal in just a little bit. Okay, but Teddy, unfortunately, his tail was injured, but he was still alive. So a really, really generous, like good Samaritan type of a person, came along and found the unfortunate situation. And the ones that were alive were rushed to a veterinary hospital called Volunteers for Wildlife in Locust Valley. That's where he went to receive immediate medical care. And unfortunately, the doctor did have to amputate his tail. As a result of that, since it's critical to their survival in the wild, he was deemed non-releasable. And it was at that point that the wildlife rehabilitators, whose absolute dream is to help every animal return to the wild, realized that unfortunately he couldn't. And that the best thing that we could do for him was at a young age, get him used to and comfortable with being around people so that he could be an ambassador. So that's a little bit about Teddy's story, a little bit about what we do. Not all of our animals have incredibly sad stories like this, but many, many of them are rescues. Rescues that were injured and can't take care of themselves in the wild, animals that were abused, neglected, unwanted, and discarded, and so on. And so I'm going to put Teddy away, and I'm going to tell you about how you can meet more of these animals before introducing you to some seriously exotic, cool stuff. I'll be right back. So, we normally deliver about 1,100 presentations like this every year. And, things were looking to be a very, very busy school season this last spring. And then, of course, what happened. And as of March 13th, everything shut down. Obviously, because we care for over 100 beautiful living souls every day, we were deemed an essential business, which meant I and my staff were still allowed to leave our house under the governor's stay-at-home order, and buy food at the grocery store, or go to work and care for the animals and provide the enrichment that they require and stuff like that. But we went a long time not doing any programs, which means no revenue to pay those bills or anything like that. And thankfully, there were a lot of accommodations. But even as we kind of reopened, the whole world is different. And our outreach business for close to 17 years has always depended on people gathering in one spot, where we will show up at a library presentation, at a birthday party, at something like that, and we'll do our presentation. And people just really aren't doing that anywhere near as much anymore. So we've been operating at about 15% of our normal rate. And honestly, that's made things very, very tough. So for those who don't know, we actually, 45 days before the shutdown, we finished the purchase, finalized the purchase of a beautiful 77-acre farm in Barrington, New Hampshire. And our intention was to develop that farm property into a place where people would come to visit. But Jen and I had a chat along with some other friends, and we said, you know what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. In the business community, we say, what is your pivot? I guess in the ecology or nature community, it's what's your adaptation. And because there has been an external stressor, COVID-19, the pandemic, and everything else, we have had to shift who and what we are. So starting in early September on Labor Day weekend, we did something we never expected to, and we actually made it available for public tours of our Ambassador Animal Facility. If you guys go to our vendor page on the Apple Harvest Festival, you will see a link and a special offer to take what's called the Backstage Pass Tour. It's an amazing hour and a half with either Jen and myself, and you're gonna get a chance to meet like these animals that you're meeting today, plus like 40 other animals. It's about an hour and a half. It's great for small, healthy families, homeschool groups, and stuff like that. So a little bit of a plug there. Check that out. Now it's time for our next animal. And I think we're going to go with one of the requested animals here today. The two that you've seen so far, not requested. This one was, and it should be something familiar with kids. Here comes our first reptile. Now, kids should know what this animal is, or at least have a pretty good guess. Nice and up close. Let's see, it's got a tail that's about the same length as its body, arms and legs, so it's definitely not a snake. Oh, and by the way, snakes have very short tails and very long bodies, so that was the other clue. Okay, so this is definitely a lizard. It's a lizard known as the Australian bearded dragon. Actually, we're in Zoom now, aren't we?
We're Zoom, we're Facebook. We're
Facebook still, so if people message in, I can't see it on the chat, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. Okay. A lot of times when we're teaching a Zoom session for school, I'll ask the students to chime in and I'll interact more with them. That's okay. Oh, by the way, if your teacher's looking for something cool and sciencey to do with animals, tell them we can either come to the school or do a Zoom class with you guys. It's super cool either way. But this is an Australian bearded dragon. This is one of the 4 animals that the Chamber and our sponsor asked us to bring to be a part of the program. And it might be just because it sounds cool, a dragon, right? Which it would be so cool if it were true. But unfortunately, real life dragons, unlike dragons that you see on the internet, which is not real life, or movies and TV, which is not real life dragons don't fly, and thankfully they don't breathe fire. Otherwise, all the bamboo behind me would be up in flames. So the Australian bearded dragon, all right, is a part of the agamid group of lizards, commonly referred to as dragons, like the Komodo dragon is part of the varanid group. Honestly, I have researched it, and I don't actually know why these certain different lizards in different categories are referred to as dragons in common English naming, okay? But I do know why they're called bearded dragons. Clearly, they don't have a beard like a human, because a beard is made of hair, right? Just like you let your face hair grow longer and suddenly you got something that looks like a beard. Well, reptiles are covered with scales. I think every kid out there knows that. Moms and dads should too. And scaly animals like this that are reptiles are usually dry. Their scales will have different shapes, different colors, and different textures based on it. For example, here on the bearded dragon, we've got some pretty bumpy scales, but some that look kind of spiky and sharp here. Now, these might look a little bit intimidating or even dangerous to touch, but the purpose of these scales along the sides is actually because one of the predators for bearded dragons, which are a desert-dwelling species native to Australia, is actually birds of prey flying overhead. So birds of prey have excellent eyesight. So if a bearded dragon is sitting on a rock or on some sand and a hawk flies overhead, scanning the ground below it, looking for something, having these scales come out of its side almost helps it to blur into the landscape around it, helps to kind of break up its stereotypical lizard shape of head, body, tail, 2 arms, 2 legs. So that's the primary purpose of these, is actually camouflage. And of course, if something does see it and the bearded dragon feels threatened, then it can actually kind of like increase the size of its body. Just like somebody maybe defending themselves is going to be like, don't mess with me, right? I'm big and tough. You don't want a piece of me, right? So just kind of looking as big and intimidating as you can. But the bearded dragon takes it to the next level, because they can actually make their head look twice as big as it truly is. All of this skin that's on the bottom underneath their mouth is very expandable. There's lots of loose skin there. And so what they can actually do is they can greatly expand it, filling it up almost like a balloon, and it can actually turn pitch black. When it turns pitch black, which just darkening the shade, right? White and black and gray are all different shades, all right? It's not actually changing color like chameleons can change color, bearded dragons can't, okay? But they can change the shade. So when they do that, it makes them look big and scary and intimidating. And that is why this little primarily insectivorous, no jumping off my hand, please. This tiny insectivorous lizard, which is basically like a desert-dwelling squirrel, you know, I mean, and when I say that, obviously a squirrel is a mammal, but squirrels are abundant around here. And if you go to their habitat in Australia, which is more desert than forest that we have here in New Hampshire, these guys are everywhere. They're running around all over the place. They're commonly seen in people's backyards, which probably for those of us around here, they'd be like, that's weird because we don't have any lizards that live in New Hampshire. So seeing a lizard in your backyard would be very unusual. But the bearded dragons are very, very common in their natural habitat. They eat mostly bugs. They're completely harmless to people. And, you know, I say this with a little bit of hesitation, but when it comes to people who really open their heart and they really, really love lizards and they think they're super, super cool and they think that they want to have one be a part of their family, and it is a long-term commitment. Sometimes these guys can live well into their teens, even late teens, and they're quite expensive to care for properly and feed, because they do very often require live food and everything else. It's a whole thing. This is not an animal care seminar or anything like that, but they can be super cool for some people to have in their house. So you'll see them, you'll have a friend who has one, and that is the Australian bearded dragon. Jen, you got a question?
What is this guy's favorite snack?
What is this guy's favorite snack? My guess, now I personally don't feed the animals every single day. Jen does that a few days a week. We also have and this is a shout out to her, Drew.
Yay.
Drew is super incredible about knowing what every animal's favorite snack is.
Drew.
She's ridiculous. Okay. But I'm going to guess crickets. Okay. Because crickets are live. Crickets hop around like, don't eat me. Don't eat me. And the bearded dragons, they're rushing around like every time a cricket moves. And actually, I'll give you a clue. I would have to actually share this with you for you to know it. But if you were watching them eat, you would actually see evidence of this. Bearded dragons' eyes, they can't see really well at a distance. They don't have good long distance vision, but their eyes are specially adapted to detect even the tiniest little movement. All right. So if there's, say, a beetle, and you know how beetles have antenna. If there's a beetle sitting in one spot and it's not moving at all, the bearded dragon's going to have a hard time seeing it. But if that bearded dragon just starts to wiggle its antenna, that beetle, then that bearded dragon's going to be able to see it and rush over and munch, munch, munch. Bugs, crickets, and things like that, the favorite snacks. It's kind of like Halloween candy. Crunchy on the outside, gushy on the inside. Yeah, you'll probably be thinking of that this Halloween, won't you? Sorry. All right, were there any other questions?
That's it for now.
That's it for now. All right, let's see. Now, some of you are probably like, wait, you promised like super cool exotic, and this is exotic. Exotic simply means it doesn't live where you live. So, you know, Sid and the bearded dragon, both from the southern hemisphere, or I should say native to, both of these guys were born in America, but native to the southern hemisphere and the other side of the planet. But now we're going to come to the Americas for something that I think is super exotic. Be right back. Now, like the opossum, and unlike the bearded dragon and Sid, this is a nocturnal animal. The bearded dragon and Sid are what we call diurnal. Diurnal means it's generally active during daylight hours and generally sedentary at night. Nocturnal is the opposite, generally sedentary during the day, generally active at night. The opossum, you noticed, was up and moving around and very alert and so on. Our next animal by its very nature tends to not want to be awake as much. And so we have for many, many years been working with this animal in order to have this be a relatively pleasant experience in its life. We usually give it a little bit of a food reward. Okay. For those of you who didn't see me, this is a quite ripe, sweet smelling banana. He's a little bit of a sugar addict. Let's meet him. He's right here, buddy. He's right here. Come on. There you go. All right. Now, this is a situation where I'm not going to bring him to the camera as much as I'm going to bring the camera to him. And many of you long-term local residents have probably seen him in presentations before. He's one of our longest-term ambassador animals. And quite honestly, he is one of our senior ambassador animals as far as still functioning very, very well in late stages of life. This is Thorn, and Thorn is our Brazilian tree porcupine, also sometimes referred to as the monkey-tailed porcupine. And this is the animal that I was referring to when I told you that the opossum normally has a prehensile or grasping tail, and that he no longer had his tail, but you would be seeing an animal with a fully functional one coming up shortly. So Thorn, the Brazilian tree porcupine, is a close cousin of our North American porcupine, okay, in the fact that they are American porcupines. You know, what in the world do I mean by that? Well, if we kind of like zoom out a little bit and take a bigger picture, let me put things into perspective. There are somewhere just under 7,000 different species of mammals on the planet. Of those, somewhere around 2,500 of them are different types of rodents. Of those porcupines, there are about 30 different species. Yes, porcupines are rodents. They're cousins of squirrels and chipmunks and guinea pigs and things like that. Okay. Of those, 18 of them are porcupines that are native to either North or South America, what we call the New World sometimes. And the rest of them are Old World species, such as African crested porcupines, which if you guys take a backstage pass tour, you will get a chance to meet Domino, the world's largest porcupine species, the South African crested porcupine. Okay, but here's a big difference. Domino only has 3,000 to 4,000 quills on his body. Old World porcupines don't have anywhere near as many quills as New World porcupines have. Thorn here, along with our porcupine that lives in our backyard, is covered with approximately 30,000 quills. And I think it's complete coincidence that it's 30,000 quills, and when scientists at MIT studied the ends of these quills, which no, I'm not going to poke him, okay? When they studied the ends of these quills, they found, first of all, very hard to study because they're too small. The very tip of it is too small to be seen with a human eye. They actually found that it's 30 times sharper than a surgical scalpel. Incredibly sharp. And so 30,000 quills covering from their hairline, which is not receding, I'm jealous, from that all the way down, partially down their tail, as you can see, and all the way down kind of like shoulders and hips, but they don't have any quills on their hands or on their feet or on their cute, adorable little face. Now, let's see if I can get him to show you his teeth real quick. Porcupines have what often people consider kind of funky teeth. They look like they really should go to the dentist for a cleaning, okay? But porcupines are, regardless of where they are animals that normally chew on very, very tough, hard things, hard substances, all right? And that would be plants or bones and antlers. Excuse me, over here, young man. Young man, I say in jest because you're an old man. Let's see if we can see his teeth. And if you can see them there, come on, hold still, hold still, hold on. Hold on, now your teeth are in the banana. Oh, Thorn, you thwarted my efforts. So they're kind of an orange color. And porcupine teeth are naturally going to be orange because they're very dense in minerals that actually discolor them a little bit. But that's not a surface discoloration. It's throughout the teeth. Porcupine teeth grow continuously, just like our fingernails, and we have to clip them. Actually, I need to clip my fingernails. Sorry about that. I should have done that before. Hey, at least they're not dirty. But he does not obviously clip his teeth. The key for porcupines is that their teeth constantly grow. In fact, American porcupines, their teeth grow about 12 inches every year. So the only reason we don't have porcupines walking around in the woods with like giant teeth hanging out of their faces is because the teeth line up perfectly, and every time they gnaw on something hard, it actually wears the teeth down and sharpens them, okay? So that's kind of a rodent characteristic with that gnawing or chewing capability, okay? Look at you go on that banana. I told you he was a sugar addict. Now I'm gonna get the camera back here and orient it properly, and then I'm gonna do something just for my Apple Harvest Day viewers. I am going to pick up the porcupine, and I'm going to demonstrate that prehensile tail. Are you ready for this, Thorn? Hold on. No, this is not helpful. See, what I want to do is I want to hold, not hands, thank you very much. I want to hold my hand with his tail, or rather his tail will hold my hand. All right, so can you just kind of like hold my hand? How about my thumb? Just my thumb? and sit on my, there we go, just like that. Nice job, okay? So porcupines also don't have quills on their tummy, so he is not quilling me right now, okay? But as you can see here, he is holding onto, he's wrapping his tail around. Now, a lot of people ask me, what if he slipped? Would he actually fall? And the answer is no. Look at that. He is able to, for a short period of time, actually suspend his entire body weight by his tail. You guys out there, all those people watching, give Thorn another big round of applause that this time he can't hear, unfortunately, but you know, he totally deserved it. Thorn has been an ambassador with us for about a decade and a half. He is, we believe, approximately 18 years old right now. The only other place that I know that does what we do, that has a porcupine of this species this old is, you know, an acquaintance of mine named Jessie. She's a popular animal educator YouTuber. She has a YouTube channel called Animal Wonders. You can check it out if you want lots of cool stuff. She does slightly different educational stuff than we do, and we're not YouTubers. We're generally in-person educators. But a great resource for kids, especially if you are big animal lovers that want to connect a little bit more with, well, our slogan is nature and human nature. So I'm going to put Thorn back. Jen, do we have any questions about Thorn real quick?
We're good.
We're
Took
good?
care of 'em.
All right. Well, we hope you guys are enjoying. Stick with us. It's going to take me just a second to get Thorn put back and get out our next animal. So I'll be right with you.
Eric, when you come back on, we have gotten a couple of questions on Facebook. Do you want me to ask them to you? What
Yeah,
I'm seeing?
absolutely.
Sure, yeah, you see
Yeah,
them
we
and I
can't
know,
we can't
yeah.
see those. So fire
Yeah,
away.
some of them we can't see, I think.
Yeah. So someone is, oh, actually, maybe you already asked, but we should say it on air. The question about shedding quills, did you already address that, Derek?
I did, but you can, Derek, you should address that too, probably.
You know, so somebody's going to watch this on replay and be like, they totally set that up. Because honestly, before you came on asking if you could ask questions, the first words that were going to be out of my mouth is, you guys know that quills are just highly adapted or specialized hairs. And just like humans shed like 75 hairs a day, you know, my dog in the other side of this house sheds ridiculously. And Thorn actually sheds his quills on a regular basis. And in fact, as I was putting him away, look what I found. Yeah, I found one of his quills. So now we can talk about this. Again, it's very special hair, okay? Now, I already told you that the end of it is too small to be seen with a human eye, all right? So you can think you see the end, but you can't actually see the end. And MIT people say that it's so sharp that when it actually, like when an animal goes up to a porcupine, gives it a sniff or attacks it or something, first penetration into the skin is actually relatively painless because it's so sharp. Of course, when it gets in deep, that probably hurts and, you know, the animal backs up. And the thing is, on the end of it, there are microscopic, sorry, get it here in front of the camera. There are microscopic barbs that kind of like point the other way. So if it goes into skin and then that animal pulls away, it actually really quite painlessly. I mean, a porcupine can feel it, but it doesn't really feel pain like we think of it, but it actually dislodges from the skin on this end. So not only when they shed them, but actually when they get attacked and then an animal comes out, you know, that neighbor's dog who comes back with like 50 quills in its face, got too close to a porcupine. The porcupine said like, hey, 6 foot physical distancing here, please. Just kidding. But anyway, physical distancing, the porcupine maybe gives it a smack with its tail or bumps into it with its back or something like that. The quill goes into the dog and the dog pulls away and comes back with a bunch of quills in its face. So, you know, a lot of kids are like, how do I know you're not making this stuff up? And you know, it was quite a while ago where I was like, well, I mean, you're going to have to trust me. And there's always one in the class. It's right. It's like, prove that it doesn't hurt. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Stick it into somebody's skin? They were like, yes. And they literally were like, they convinced me to just be like, they just stuck, you know, like that. I'm like, see, all right, it didn't hurt. you know, and then they're like, what about the hooks? Pull it out, pull it out. And of course, if I do, you can actually see, it's like a science experiment gone crazy, right? You can actually see that it didn't go in deep enough. Hold on, let me do it again. There we go. And see if it pulls on my skin. Yeah, I'm not doing it really deep, guys, but there is evidence that the barbs are on there. So yes, they shed their quills. Their quills come out of their body relatively painlessly. They normally are replace them every 10 to 14 days, lost ones anyway. And yeah, oh, and they're hollow on the inside. So if a porcupine like falls out of the tree in the rainforest and lands in the water, it's like his body's covered with like 30,000 floaties. It's pretty cool adaptation, this special hair. So that was a really long answer to one question.
Oh boy. So Zach has a question. He asked, do all of our ambassador animals get along? I thought that was a good question to ask.
Do all of our ambassador animals get along?
Yeah.
If we were to take them all and set them free in a room,
Oh boy.
things would eventually work their way out. It would not be probably a pleasant process, but you know, things would adapt their behaviors. But no, there are certainly certain ambassador animals that, for the safety reason of one animal or another, we don't allow them near each other. For example, let's see. One of my favorite ambassador animals, his name is Shadow. He's our gray fox. We do not let him get too close to Thorn. Right? And, you know, we've got some adorable bunny rabbits, but they don't hang out with our big 6.5 foot, 100-pound alligator named Cajun. So, so yeah, we do want all of our animals to live the best quality of life and the longest life, like genetically possible. So we do everything that we can to kind of optimize their nutritional health, their physical health, their mental, and if applicable, emotional health. And that, believe, trust me, that's not applicable to all of them. You'll see that in a second. But yeah, we do sometimes prevent certain animals from interacting with each other. And quite honestly, there are some, like I have an opportunity to take in another Virginia opossum, potentially. A little bit of a sad situation, but I won't go into it right now because I haven't decided if we'll do that or not. And one of the reasons is because opossums can't really live together. Like, they're not a social species. There are some species that love to get along, love to hang out. They love to be in groups. It's great for their psychological and emotional and even physical well-being. But other animals are by nature solitary. And if you try to force a situation that goes against kind of like their natural tendencies, it can often be pretty disastrous. So I hope I answered your question and then helped you understand why, rather than just saying, no, not all of our animals get along. Because if I just answered it, no, not all of our animals get along, then I don't know. I just feel like that would have maybe allowed you to kind of like walk away from this presentation not quite thinking things the right way. So I wanted to give that a little bit more depth, if you will. So was that it? We ready to rock and roll?
We are ready to rock and roll.
All right. So how about an animal that has no emotions?
Absolutely.
This is an animal that has no emotions. It only has a memory of between 1 and 3 minutes. It is not on the wish list from anybody that sent in a wish list. This is a surprise one again. Be right back. Couldn't have a Wildlife Encounters presentation without a snake for the kids.
Oh boy.
That's right. Now I understand we're probably going to lose some moms and dads or grandparents from the viewership right now, but that's okay. You can come back when this animal's time is done. Okay? Had to put a snake in here in large part because when I was a kid growing up in central Maine, I was horribly afraid of snakes. The reason that I started doing education with animals, and even before that, doing animal rescue, was because I faced a childhood fear of these guys. Now, I still have a very healthy respect and appreciation, all right? I do not have a pet snake. I do not generally recommend people have pet snakes. I appreciate their role in the natural environment a lot, and today my fear has actually turned into a tremendous fascination. And even though I have and do today work with much bigger and awesome and super cool like pythons and stuff like that, as well as really unique and interesting small native species like we would see outside in the woods. Like we have some really cool like hognose snakes. You ever heard of those? Literally, like you look at their face and their nose goes like this, like a pig or a hog. They're so cool, okay? But this is one of the coolest because this is a pitless python. Now, this is very, very rare. And I was actually introducing this animal in a class last fall. And remember how a few minutes ago I was like, there's always one in the class? Remember, there's always that one kid? Well, this one kid goes, yeah, snakes don't have arms. How could it possibly have pits? Get it? Armpits? Some of you were like still trying to connect that. Anyway, so the reason it's called a pitless python is because pythons and their cousins boa constrictors are very good at hunting daylight or nighttime. They are not nocturnal strictly. They are not diurnal strictly, but they can be sedentary or active depending on temperature and opportunity pretty much any time, day or night. And they can be actively hunting pretty much any time, day or night. But one of the keys to success for most pythons is the fact that they have what I would almost call a sixth sense. Kids, if you know what the senses are, if you've already learned this, you understand the senses of feeling or touch, sight or seeing, smell, right? Tasting, hearing. You understand the senses. Well, these guys can almost combine sight and feeling. They can see temperature. So if you understand the difference between, say, putting your hand in hot water and cold water. Well, if you had hot water and cold water, you had a cup of each right in front of this snake, or a python or boa constrictor, then that animal would have a special part of its face that could tell the difference between the hot water and the cold water from a distance without having to touch it, could just see the difference because the water in one cup is hot and the water in the other cup is cold. You would have to touch it probably to see the difference, but they could see that difference from a distance. Those special body parts are what are called heat sensing pits, and they are normally right in the upper lip area of the snake. But this python is a pitless python. It has none of those holes. Now you do see holes, and those are just its nose holes. All right, and yes, it does breathe through its nose, but it does not smell with those nose holes. That's what the tongue is for. All right, their tongue is used to smell, or more accurately, to collect smells so that they can figure out what's around them. Now, having said that, you know, I did call this ability to see temperature differences, I did call it a sixth sense. But for them, maybe it's actually just the fifth sense because they are missing one sense that we have and already went over. They do not have the ability to taste, all right? So their tongue is used for collecting smells, but they do not taste things. So the other name for this, there are a couple of other names. It's sometimes referred to as the yellow-headed python. It's native to the deserts of Australia, along with bearded dragons. Yes, it might actually eat little bearded dragons if they're small enough, but it's most famous for being a python that eats venomous snakes. So if you know anybody that's been in Australia, you've traveled to Australia, you lived in Australia, you know that especially drier habitats, Australia is home to probably more venomous snakes than any other place on the planet that humans inhabit. And it is a real threat because venomous snakes, right? It's their bite. Venom starts with V, sharp, pointy, dangerous if it gets stuck in you. So venom from a snake bite can be potentially very dangerous. A lot of people, I explain that because a lot of people mistakenly use the wrong word. They call them poisonous snakes. There is no such thing as a poisonous snake. It literally doesn't exist on planet Earth. Okay, but that's, again, just somebody using the wrong word. So I think words are important. And so venomous snakes are what they are, and pythons are loved in people's backyards because they eat venomous snakes. What a beautiful animal. Again, one of my favorite animals to share. Were there questions about him?
No, we're good.
We're good? All right, let's rock and roll. I want to take just a tiny little break here from the animals to just share one super cool thing with you. So I'll be right back with that. So I told you that we have decided to, unexpectedly, but as a result of the pandemic, open our legacy, and by that I mean old, or previously existing, Ambassador Animal Facility for healthy family tours, what we're calling the Backstage Pass offer. And again, if that's something that you want to do throughout the month of October, we're offering a discount to Apple Harvest Day viewers and participants. But the real big development with our organization is the fact that just before the pandemic hit, we finalized the purchase that had been in process for a while of a 77-acre old farm property in Barrington, New Hampshire, right on the top of what we call Beauty, or they call Beauty Hill, right on Beauty Hill Road. So I wanted to share this with you here real quick. This is, oh good, it comes across well on the camera. It's gonna be a little bit shiny, but if you come up Beauty Hill Road, we've got this old farmhouse here, right? And this is actually where we are right now. This is where we set up the virtual studio. As you're coming up the road, you'll come past this field, which is going to be the educational field. And if you take a walk about 10 minutes back, you'll come to a pond and so on. And we've got some seasonal wetlands where we know we have some super cool endangered species of reptiles and amphibians like Blanding's turtles, spotted turtles, and stuff like that back here with the ponds. But the property goes all the way, like all the way back here, all the line. We've taken a whole bunch of resources and time to kind of get to know the front about 35 acres, but that is the future of the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center. We literally have like a 77-acre nature classroom. So exciting. We were hoping to do some sort of a day camp this summer, but the pandemic took the hit out on that, if you will. So we're hoping to be doing something over the course of school breaks and holiday breaks this winter. I'm not afraid to get outside in the cold. Just bundle up and stay active, and you heat yourself from the inside, and it's awesome. And being outside and being active is one of the greatest things that you can do, whether there's a pandemic or not. And we actually are talking about continuing our Backstage Pass tours all winter long as well. We'll see about that. But I wanted to just share that with you a little bit. We hope you're excited about it. More information on our website, and definitely follow our social media as well. So let's continue with the animals. Our next one is going to be, let's see. Yeah, our next one is going to be another really cool exotic by request from our sponsors and the Chamber. We'll be right back. There you go, guys. Yeah, you're seeing it right. We actually have, right here in the studio, we have a type of kangaroo. Now, there are many different types of kangaroos, and some of them are so tall they wouldn't even fit on the screen, right? They're like taller than that sign over there, okay? Those are known as the red kangaroos, the gray kangaroos, and they're like a really, really tall species of Australian marsupials. Can you stay over here on the not slippery part? Because when you're over on the slippery part, like, it's slippery. She apparently doesn't care, okay? This is Savannah, by the way, and we named her Savannah because that's actually their natural habitat in the wild. They are a grassland species. Now, I said that we're referring ourselves to ourselves as an organization as the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center and Farm School. And the farm school part is an interesting underdevelopment part that's kind of an outreach of stuff that I've done previously in my life, kind of still do on the side here today, and want to work with our both wildlife and farm life ambassadors in order to share with you about. And that is the fact that one of the greatest things that we can do for human and environmental health is return to regenerative farming, all right? Or move to regenerative farming, okay? I would argue that over the 10 to 15,000 years that humans have been domesticating plants and animals and farming them, we have always been farming them in a way that to some extent is largely degenerative to the environment. It might be clearing an entire area for a garden, or half of a state for a giant cornfield, or whatever it happens to be. I mean, the rainforests of those islands where SID no longer exists were completely clear-cut and devoid of wildlife, plant and animal and otherwise, to basically just plant palm for like palm oil and stuff like that. So having regenerative practices is a concept of working with animals and plants and nature in order to get what we need through farming practices in a way that contributes to a healthier environment. And this is a great example to help us learn this, because these are animals that typically move around a lot. In fact, look at her. She's constantly looking in different directions. Her ears potentially, look, turning in different directions. This is an animal that, let's just say, lives in high anxiety, all right? It is one that is always on high alert, always watching out for danger, yet at the same time, it naturally puts its face to the ground and it naturally grazes on and eats grass. Now, the thing about grass is that it's alive, like an animal. It doesn't want to be eaten too much, but it does need to be grazed. It does need to be cut down occasionally. And so great, easy. Okay. What did you say? I told you, anxiety problems. Right there, there you go. I got you. So, all right, she needs to be held. She needs to be held. Calm down. Nothing's going to get you. Okay? So grazers need grass, and grass needs to be grazed. All right? Now, this is a type of kangaroo known as a Bennett's wallaby, and the Bennett's wallabies are the largest of the 13 different types of kangaroos that are referred to as wallabies. And let me show you the thing about them that puts them all in the same family. It's these huge, huge, powerful feet. Those large feet allow these animals to potentially hop across the ground at over 25 miles an hour. And the tall kangaroos can approach 45 miles an hour. So they're incredibly fast, incredibly powerful animals, but they have only developed these adaptations of these special legs and big feet and the ability to hop because they are animals that are always being chased by, what is it? Predators. I know some of you are yelling it out there. Now, sometimes we actually just use the word predator to refer to an animal that chases other animals. And that's common, and I'm not going to laugh at anybody or fault anybody for that use of the word, but what I will try to ask people to expand their mind about is if you look up the word predate, which for those of you who, English class and stuff like that, predate is the root of predator, okay? And so the word predate, if you look it up in the dictionary, means to consume. And every animal in the animal kingdom, be it a lion, a wallaby, a beetle, a person, doesn't matter what it is, any type of animal in the animal kingdom, in order for it to stay alive, it needs to consume energy and nutrients, and it can only do that by consuming something that was alive. Be it plant, animal, fungus, whatever it happens to be, okay? So everything in the animal kingdom is a predator of something. And of course, nothing that is alive wants to be eaten and has a defense mechanism, okay? So this is the whole concept of ecology and predator-prey relationships and stuff like that. And the wallaby definitely helps us learn some super cool things. You got hay on your face. She was laying in a bed of hay before we came out here, okay? It helps us teach and connect in a very interesting, engaging, and memorable way with a lot of these different types of sometimes pretty complex and hard to wrap our mind around concepts. And I think a part of the reason that it's hard to wrap our mind around it, I'm going to get in trouble for this. If this was a YouTube video, I'd probably get demonetized, but thankfully it's not. Well, but it will be. So anyway, let's just say I'm a big fan of science education. Okay. I'm a big fan of science being just as important as math and reading. And, you know, I mean, but there are other things that I would say are just as important. Like I think PE class is just as important. I think kids need to be outside running around on a playground and playing sports just as much as they need to be learning how to, you know, add 100 plus 100 or whatever. And so, you know, I want to try to get science education and get concepts to kids and young adults in any way I can. And honestly, these amazing ambassador animals help us do just that. And we see such an almost anti-science trend in our society right now that it's honestly kind of scary. But we're going to keep doing what we can do for as long as we can do it and loving our animals at the same time. We hope you love what we do. We hope you support it. I'll be right back as we, I think, wrap things up, right? We just have one animal left.
We just have one animal.
We just have that one animal left. Yeah, it's our time to wrap things up, guys. I'll be right back.
Okay.
So if you guys really like what we do, whether this is your first introduction to our organization and our kind of like educational philosophy and methodology and so on, or maybe you've been a long time follower, I'll let you know something in advance. I hope I don't get in trouble for kind of like pre-announcing this. There's a little thing on our website about it, but I mean, who goes to websites anymore, right? It's either on social media, it's on Twitter, Facebook, whatever it happens to be. People don't really go to websites all that much anymore. Thank you for going to the Apple Harvest Day Festival. If you go to that, go to the Wildlife Encounters vendor page, then you can click directly to our website. And there's a page where you'll see that we are going to be doing something else different. My goodness, during a pandemic, all of a sudden, it's giving us an opportunity to truly reshape ourselves. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is offering membership with benefits. A membership to the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center is going to be a way for people to support us on in a painless but ongoing way. Kind of think of it like, you know, a Spotify subscription, only even cheaper than that. You know, it's not even going to be a gym membership. It's going to give you guys the opportunity to support our work, support our animals, and get some incredible benefits for it. Attending events here at the farm in Barrington. We just held a couple of weeks ago our first one. Our first 3 events here at the property are adult events, actually, if you know what I mean. They're called Paint and Sips. Check out the Facebook page if you're an adult who likes to paint and sip, okay? But you know, we're doing lots of exciting things, and one of them is going to be a membership. And we are actually working on a new website right now where our goal is to have kind of like a members only side to it, where you will be able to Zoom live and interactive with us on a pretty regular basis. You'll get early announcements of like our newest animals or newest developments and stuff like that before the information is public, which I'm doing way too much here today. I know Jen's probably going to yell at me later, okay? But keep those things in mind. A membership to the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center, or something like buying a Wildlife Encounters t-shirt. We're going to be placing an order for some of those real soon, and so on, or just a backstage pass toward our facility, kind of like the perfect holiday gift or birthday gift or something like that. If you're kind of like, you know, you have loved ones in your family that are high risk from COVID or illness, and you're like, we're not going to do a birthday party, we're not going to have a bunch of people over. It might be just a great thing for that animal lover, child or adult in your family. So thanks for keeping that in mind. Thanks for the Dover Chamber. Our last animal coming out is one of our farm friends, here by special request from our sponsors, and it's the deadliest animal Australia has ever seen. Here, the deadly bunny. This is Sage, everybody. Now, I was kidding, not kidding there just a little bit ago, okay? Yes, bunny rabbits. First of all, they are predators, right? If you are a dandelion, you're stuck in your roots. There's no surviving an attack from one of these guys, let me tell you, okay? But Sage is a Flemish giant rabbit, okay? So she's a little bit bigger than what you would see in your backyard. Flemish giant rabbits are actually farm breeds of rabbits. Animals that live and adapt and survive in the wild are referred to as species. And species look the way they look, eat what they eat, and behave the way they behave because of the responding to the stresses of living in a wild environment. And for those of you who have kind of grown up thinking that, you know, life in the wild for animals is like some Disney movie where everybody's best friends and everybody gets along and stuff like that, that's not what nature is really like, okay? So animals have to respond and struggle, and some of them are always under anxiety, and it's a challenge. The value of hard work means success naturally. And so this animal here, this animal is an animal that was actually for many, many generations, its parents, its grandparents, its great-great-grandparents, and so on, lived outside of that. And so this is an animal that had constant access to food, was raised on a farm, was protected from predators, didn't need to provide its own habitat or anything like that. The Flemish giant, therefore, is a breed of rabbit that has over time become different from its wild species ancestors. Every animal you see in your life on a farm, as a pet, wherever it happens to be, can somehow draw its ancestry to some sort of wild animal that used to live in the wild, including us. What? Seriously. So that is Sage. The reason I called her the deadliest animal Australia has ever seen is because every animal has its own ecological niche, its job in nature in a specific habitat. And unfortunately, humans took rabbits to Australia many, many years ago, released them into the wild where they competed with something else that nibble, nibble, hops, hops, and poops, poops. You just saw one, right? In fact, 6 species of kangaroos became extinct almost exclusively because of competition with rabbits released in Australia. Was it the rabbits' fault? No, it was our fault. Our choices have consequences, not just for us and our personal health or our family or our community and our loved ones. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, all these different things. Our choices have consequences, all right? And when we do something like that, I mean, they didn't know, but now we do. And so we can fix things, or at least try. And that's the important thing, is that you at least try. So I hope you guys enjoyed our presentation. My name is Derek, and Jen is with me. We are with the Wildlife Encounters Ecology Center. We hope you guys had a fantastic time. Were there any other last minute?
I don't have any other last minute questions.
All
Well,
right.
we are back live. Thank you all for sticking with us. Thank you, Leonie McDonald and Roberts PA, for sponsoring Wildlife Encounters this afternoon. Thank you to Paula Daly DePlanche from LMR for stopping by to chat with us earlier. And of course, thank you to Derek and Jen from Wildlife Encounters for appearing on our live stream today.